Welcome to the webinar on Duxbury 12.6. I'm Seema Kapoor, transcriber at PRCBI. We will look at the working screen of Duxbury. We will look at how to open a new document or a scanned document in Duxbury using BANA template. BANA is Braille Authority of North America. We will look at how to format a document using styles and codes in Duxbury. We will look in detail at how to create various tables in Duxbury. Let's look at working screen of Duxbury. On the top is the file name. When a file name is not saved, it will show as untitled print document or a Braille document. This file was saved as tables. Tables.dxb is written in square brackets as it is a print document. This is followed by the toolbar. Duxbury 12.6 has 8 menus on its toolbar, each of which, when selected, brings up another set of menus. In this webinar, I won't go through all the menus on the toolbar. Main focus will be on table menu. You can access any of the menus shown here by clicking on it with your mouse or by holding down the Alt key and pressing the first letter of the menu. For example, Alt plus F will bring up the file menu. Toolbar is followed by the working window. Depending on what type of document you have opened, you will either see a print or Braille view. At the bottom is the status bar. It shows current style, page number, line number, cell number of the line where cursor is located. To view a translated line, go to View menu on the toolbar and click on Translation line from the menu if it is not already selected, or press Ctrl plus F8 key to view translated line. When a print file is open, the translated line shows the Braille equivalent of the current print line on which the cursor rests. When a Braille file is active, the translated line displays the print equivalent of the Braille line on which cursor rests. If you are starting a new document, go to File menu on the toolbar and select New from the drop-down menu, or use the shortcut command Ctrl and N to open a new document. On the pop-up window, from Document Type, select Print or Braille. Print option starts a print document and then translates into Braille. Braille option starts a Braille document on which you can do manual 6-key entry. Print document can be saved as DXB file and Braille document can be saved as DXB or BRF file. From Document Setting, Template, select English UEB BANA template and click OK. You can make English UEB BANA as your default template by clicking on Mark Template as Default. By marking the template, you don't have to select the English UEB BANA template every time you open a new or scanned document. To open a scanned file or file created in Word, go to File menu on the toolbar and select Open from the drop-down menu, or use the shortcut command Ctrl-O to open a Word document. Duxbury does not recognize rich text file or plain text file. Select the intended file and click Open. Import file windows open up. Select English UEB banner and click OK. You can make English UEB banner as your default template by clicking on Set Template as Default and click OK. For formatting, codes and styles are used in Duxbury. In the standard view, codes and styles cannot be seen. Open the View menu on the toolbar and click on Codes if the Codes option isn't checked. This will change the appearance of the document from standard view to coded view. Alt F3 also allows you to toggle between coded and formatted view. Each style and code has an opening and an ending. Codes and styles are written in highlighted boxes. Codes are written within square brackets and styles are within angle brackets. Before applying a new style or code, you need to come out of the previous style by moving the cursor past the encoding code of the style. Using arrow keys on your keyboard, the cursor can be moved in or out of the code. In the coded view shown below, note that the text is in between the opening and closing codes. HDS is the code for Start Centered Heading, and HDE is the code for End Centered Heading. Not all styles has an ending code. As you can see, LEA code for print page number does not have an ending code. I prefer to work in standard view as it looks less crowded. Looking at all the codes and styles can be overwhelming. F8 key on the keyboard is an important key for formatting a document. First, highlight the text you want to format, then press F8 key. F8 key opens Apply Style window, from which you can choose any style for formatting. When you use heading style H1, it centers the heading with blank line before and after it. H2 style is for cell 5 heading, and H3 style is for cell 7 heading. Major headings are centered and minor headings are left justified at cell 5 or cell 7. When you use direction style, directions will be left justified at cell 5. List style will list in cell 1 with runover in cell 3. List should have a blank line before and after it. In styles 1 to 3, text starts in cell 1 with runover in cell 3. If 3-5 style is selected, text starts in cell 3 with runover in cell 5. Use BB box begin for top box line, BE box end for bottom box line, BD box double for full cell box line. Transcriber nodes starts text at cell 7 with run-over lines at cell 5. It also inserts opening and closing transcriber node indicators before and at the end of a sentence. Use bold, italics, or underline from Apply Style window to insert type form indicators. You can also go to Layout menu on the toolbar and select Apply Style from the menu to open Apply Style window. Instead of scrolling down the list on Apply Style window, click first letter of the style will bring you closer to the style you wish to apply. I have mentioned only few of the styles. There are lots more styles in the Apply Style window. Code list is used for entering the text which cannot be entered directly using the keyboard. To use codes from the code list, go to Layout menu on the toolbar and select Code List from the menu, or use F5 key on the keyboard. Select the desired code and click OK. You can find various math symbols, Greek letters, etc. under the list. Code category All displays the entire list of codes. By choosing a specific code category, the list is shortened to display codes pertaining to the chosen category. Unicode value enters the character or mathematical symbol that is not on your keyboard by typing in the 4-digit code for the character. In Duxbury, you may directly enter many Unicode characters. Be sure to do this before you translate the print file to Braille. Keystroke to enter Unicode is Control plus right square bracket. Within Duxbury text file, position your cursor where you wish the special character to appear. Then press Control plus right square bracket. The following dialog box will appear. Simply enter the Unicode number into the field and click the OK button. In the example shown here, calculate 12 divided by 2. I kept the cursor between 12 and 2. Then I pressed Control plus right square bracket. I entered 00F7 in the field and then clicked on OK. Division sign appeared in print. Unicode value for dash is 2014 and for minus sign is 2212. Please email me if you are interested in learning more about Unicode numbers. You can use Unicode values in Microsoft Word as well. What are tables? Tables have a relationship between columns and rows. Entries are compared with entries in other columns and rows to analyze data. Not all print identified as tables fit in these categories. Next, let's look at transcribing various types of table using the table menu on the toolbar. Table have column headings, row headings, and column entries. It can have column subheading and row subheading. Column headings are across the top of the table. Separation line is line between a column heading and column entry. Row heading are listed vertically on the left side of the table. Column entries are intersections of a row and a column. Let's look at this print table and how it is transcribed in Braille. Animal and long lifespan are column headings. Column headings are separated by 2 blank cells. Separation line is a line between a column heading and a row heading or a column entry. It is shown as .53535 across the width of a column. In Braille, guide dots are series of dots, fives, leading the reader from one column to the next. Guide dots are also used for indicating an empty column entry. In a new or existing document, we can create a table by clicking on the table menu on a toolbar and selecting Create from the drop-down menu. We can also access the table menu by using the keyboard shortcut Alt plus T. We can create tables with columns. You can create linear table, listed table, etc. When you click on Create, a window opens up. On the window, depending on type of table you want to create, you can select from various options. The first on the list is unrelated columns. When this option is selected, it creates a list in columns without guide dots. Matrix creates mathematical matrix. When table automatic is selected, it lets Duxbury choose the table type. Use table columnar table type when print has related columns and all the column and column entries can fit on one or two braille lines. Table stair step creates a table in stair step. It is used for wide print tables with 4 or less columns. First row begins in cell 1, next row in cell 3, and next row in cell 5, and so on. Table listed creates a listed table. Row headings is in cell 5, column headings in cell 1 with run over in 3. It can be used for wide print tables with more than 4 columns. In linear table, each row is formatted linearly as a single paragraph. It can be used for wide print tables. In table 2 pages, columnar table is placed on facing pages. This table type is not working properly as per the format's guidelines. I will be showing you examples of all the above table type except 2-page columnar table. XY row column swap has the following drop-down menu. Do not swap. Use this option when you don't want to interchange columns and rows of the print table. That is follow print as is. Force swap. Use this option when you want to interchange columns and rows of the print table. Swap if you more compact. It interchanges columns and rows only if it fits better on the page. Under Total Rows and Total Columns tab, fill in the number of rows and number of columns of the print table. For header rows and header columns, fill in the number of braille lines each row headers and column headers will have. Row headings and column headings should not be more than 2 braille lines. Now let's look at samples for each of the table type. In an unrelated column list, there is no relationship between entries across a row of columns in a related column list. It's a list of items arranged in 2 or more columns. Items in column are braille without guide dots. Use this list only if all the columns will fit on a braille line. Let's look at the example of unrelated column list. In this example, there is no relationship between entries across a row of columns. It's a list of items arranged in 2 columns. Under table type, select unrelated column. Select do not swap for XY swap. Total rows are 4 and total columns are 2. There is no heading row or header column. For that reason, header rows and header columns are grayed out. After filling out all the information, click OK. You will see an empty table with codes in the coded view. HTBSU is the code for begin table format. Right pointing arrowhead is the code for the tab, and left pointing arrowhead is the code to force new line. HTBE is the code for end of table format. Now type the text from the print table in between these codes as shown in the next step. Remember to use arrow keys on the keyboard to move around the codes. When you translate this table in Braille, by pressing Ctrl T on your keyboard or by selecting Translate from the File menu, you get the unrelated column list. Let's look at this example of matrix. Under Table Type, select Matrix. Select Do Not Swap for XY swap. Total rows are 3 and total columns are 3. There is no header row and header column. For that reason, header rows and header columns are grayed out. After filling out all the information, click OK. You will see an empty table with codes in a coded view. HTBSM is the code for begin table in matrix. Right pointing arrowhead is the code for the tab, and left pointing arrowhead is the code to force new line. HTBE is the code for end table format. Now type the text from the print table in between these codes as shown in the next step. Big is the code for enlarged grouping symbol. Remember to use arrow keys on the keyboard to move around the codes. Metric tables look like this in standard view. When you translate this table in Braille, Control T on your keyboard or by selecting Translate from the File menu, you get the matrix table. Dot 646126 and dot 646345 are big multi-line opening and closing square brackets. In a columnar table, related columns show a relationship between entries across a row of columns, but no relationship between entries in one row with entries in another row. Let's look at this print example. It has column heading and row headings and no entries under the column. Under Table Type, select Table. Columnar, select Do Not Swap for XY swap. Total rows are 6, including the column heading, and total columns are 4. For header row and header column, enter 1. After filling out all the information, click OK. Before creating a table box line code was added by using F8 key on the keyboard. Heading data table was centered by using H1 heading centered style using F8 key. BB box line is the code for top box line. HDS and HDE is the code for centered heading. HDBS, R1B, and C is the code for starting of columnar table. HTBE is the code for end table. Box end is for bottom box line. This is an unfilled table in standard view or uncoded view. Using arrow keys, come to the column or row and type the text from the print table as you do in Microsoft Word. When you translate the print file to the Braille file, you get a perfect table. In the Braille view, dot 2356 across the width of a Braille paper is the top box line. Dots 2356 across the width of a Braille paper is the top box line. Sorry, I repeat it again. Heading data table is centered. There are 2 blank cells in between each columns. Dot 5s across the width of a column indicates a blank space. Dots 1, 2, 4, 5 across the width of a page is the bottom box line. Leave a blank line before and after tables that are not enclosed in boxes. Let's look at columnar table, which requires interchanging of rows and columns of a print table. This wide print table won't fit across a 40-cell Braille line. We have to think about the best way to fit it. We can fit it on a Braille page if we interchange columns and rows of the print table. In the table properties, select Table Columnar from the Table Type option. For XY row column swap, select For Swap since we want to interchange the columns and rows in Braille. Enter 3 for total rows, enter 7 for total columns, enter 1 for header rows, enter 1 for header columns, and click OK. As done below, we have entered the style for top box line using F8 key. This is followed by transcriber note style. Transcriber note columns and rows are interchanged is typed in between these styles. After a blank line, table is created. When you translate the print file by pressing Ctrl-T on your keyboard or by selecting Translate from File menu on the toolbar, you get a Braille file. Line 1 is the top box line. Line 2 shows a transcriber note in cell 7.5 enclosed within transcriber's note indicator. Blank line before start of the table. Each column is separated from a following column by 2 blank lines. Columns and rows are separated by separation line dot 5 dots 2525 across the width of a column. And line 10 shows bottom box line. Stair-step table format is used for wide print table. Limit this format to tables with 4 or less columns. For wider tables with more than 4 columns, use the listed table format, which is in the next slide. This is wide print table with less than 4 columns. We can use stair-step format for transcribing in Braille. In table properties, select Table Stair-step. From the table type option, select Do Not Swap for XY swap. Total rows are 2. Don't count column headings as we will format it differently. Total columns are 3. Header row is 0 and header column is 0 since we did not include them in our count for number of rows. Click OK. In coded view, begin box line style is followed by centered heading for table 9.1 Dream Theories. Then blank line is followed by transcriber's note. Every time we change the print column table to any other format, we need to add transcriber note. In this case, we will add table change as follows, colon in cell 7, followed by a blank line. First column heading, theory in cell 11. Second column heading, explanation in cell 33. And third column heading, critical consideration in cell 55, followed by ending transcriber node symbol. All these styles are selected from the option when we use F8 key. Insert blank line before creating step table using table menu on the toolbar. When we translate the print file, we see begin box line on line 1. Line 2 and line 3 shows centered table title. Line 4 is blank. Line 5 has transcriber's note. Table changed as follows in cell 7. Line 6 is blank. On line 7, first column heading is in cell 1. On line 8, second column heading is in cell 3. On line 9, third column heading is in cell 5, followed by closing transcriber's node indicator. On line 10, followed by entries from table in respective cells. Entries under theory is in cell 1 with run over in 1. Entries under explanation is in cell 3 with run over in cell 3. Entries under critical consideration is in cell 5 with run over in cell 5. Similarly, continue to do the second column and second row. And the last line is in the bottom box line. Okay, let's look at the print table done in listed table format. Use this table type for wide tables with 5 or more columns. If done in columnar format, rows and columns would fit in one braille line. In table properties, select table listed from the table type option. Select do not swap for XY swap. Total rows are 5, including column headings. Total columns are 5. Sorry, total rows are 5, including column headings, and total rows are 5. Header row is 1, and header column is 1. And click OK. Printed code view shows top box line style. Transcriber node is added. Print format is changed. Row headings are blocked in cell 5. Column headings begin in cell 1. All headings are repeated for clarity. A colon separates headings from table entries. This is followed by a blank line before table is created using table menu from the toolbar. HTBSR11BN is the code for begin table, and HTBE is the code for end table, which is followed by bottom box line table. When translated in Braille, we see top box line followed by transcriber's node. As you see on line 8, 14, 20, 8, 14, 20, the first column heading and row headings become cell 5 heading, and they are separated by colon. In the print table, province, which is a column heading, and Alberta, which is a row heading, became a cell 5 heading. Rest of the column headings followed by colon and table entries are listed in 1-3 below it. Code, colon, and AB, and capital, Edmonton, colon, Edmonton, official language, colon, English, area colon 661,848 are listed as 1, 3. This format continues until the first row is completed. All columns in the rows are on the same Braille page. There is a blank line before each row. When other options are not effective in dealing with white tables, a linear format may be used. This format is not an option when there are colons or semicolons in the table. In Table Properties, select Table Linear from the Table Type option. Select Do Not Swap for XY swap. Total rows are 3. Do not include column headings in the count. Total columns are 6. Header row is 0. Header column is 0 and click OK. Coded print view shows top box line. Select 7-5 style for transcriber node. Add transcribers node, column follow one another in this order. Hard return for a blank line. List the column headings in 1-3 style followed by closing transcriber node indicator. Hard return for a blank line before starting table. HTTPS R00B and P is starting table format. Tabs between each entries. HTBE is ending table format code followed by box line code. When translated in Braille, we get a table formatted linearly. Top box line is on line 1, followed by transcriber's note on line 2 and line 3. Column headings are listed on cell 5, 6 in style 1, 3. Line 7 is blank. All row headings are followed by colon. Entries are listed in 1, 3. As you can see on line 8, row headings Canada is followed by colon, which is followed by all the entries in that row separated by semicolons. Similarly, entries for row headings India and row heading United Kingdom is listed. At the end is the bottom box line. When print table is too wide to fit on a Braille page, it can be divided vertically into sections, as done in this table. We need to add a transcriber note that says, table is divided vertically into sections. For this table, create two columnar table. First table will have column heading section and column headings title and entries under them. Second column will have column heading section, column heading work to complete, column heading complete, and entries under them. There are no entries under the column heading complete. Guide dots, dot fives across the width of a column are added to indicate a blank space. I know this table looked kind of confusing, but when you put the correct code and create table, you don't have to worry about like how it formats. Duxbury formats it for you. But you have to decide what kind of table you want to use. Okay, now let's look at the shortcut keys used, which we can use in Duxbury. Control plus N starts a new print or Braille document. Control plus 0 opens a saved print or Braille file. Alt F3 shows you coded or standard view. Control plus F8 shows translated line. F8 key, apply style. It opens up the apply style window. F5 key on your keyboard shows the code list. Control Enter forces a new Braille page. Control plus Enter gives you a new print page number. Shift plus F6 centers your text. Control plus M starts a new indented paragraph. Control plus T translates to Braille or vice versa. Control E will emboss the document. Control plus P will print the document. Control plus S will save the file. F3 key will do save as. F9 key enters the code and parameters. Alt F7, it flushes the text right with leader, that is, creates guide dots between the text and page number on a table of content page. This brings end to my presentation.